Welcome back to DK Sports Radio. You're listening to Don't Get Me Started. Don't get me started about how Antonio Brown is talking with the media right now. Hey everybody, it's Chris Carter, your NFL analyst here at DKPittsburghSports.com, and we are talking about the Steelers, of course, but recently, and this is, extremely recently, because the Steelers are currently in minicamp. It's summer, y'all. Antonio Brown was with the media, and he was talking about a lot of the stories he's been reading on social media, both by, comments by fans, which I guess he says doesn't bother him as much, but the stories by the media that he has a problem with. The quote that everyone, the thing is that people are trying to paint, once again, Antonio Brown to be saying something completely outlandish, and I think it's just taking a little bit out of context, or a lot of it out of context. And what I mean by that, and I'm not saying that they're trying to turn him into like the devil or something, but I think that you're missing the entire point of the conversation that he had with reporters in the locker room. For example, this one quote that's being circulated around all across the internet says, from Antonio Brown, "I am constantly under pressure, can't go anywhere and work out by myself. Fans meet me at the field, can't do anything normal. You guys write about me every day, and my mom and kids see it, and my kids see it, so we have to deal with these types of things, and I start to think, am I really free? I started to think, what's important? Am I playing football to make a lot of money, or am I playing football to take care of my family? Those are some of the decisions I think about when I come here every day." So people are taking that as, oh, he's upset because he's such an attraction, and the immediate critique of when people hear that, and that's been posted several times by lots of people on various forms of social media, is that, well, Antonio Brown, you do this to yourself. You are Mr. Social Media Man. You put yourself in the spotlight. You post about where you go every day. You make sure that you're making sure you do that. And that's that. I understand where people are coming with that, but I think you need to listen to the whole conversation before you understand why he said those things and where he was coming from when he said that. First and foremost, though, I want to address this. The reason that Antonio Brown does that is because he builds his brand on social media. He makes money from social media. Everyone remembers that Facebook Live video that he posted after the Chiefs playoff game a couple years ago, and it came out that he made like several $100,000 from Facebook Live in a contract with them. Those are the type of things that athletes are trying to build, trying to make as much money as they can while they're in the prime of their career, so that they can use that and invest that into whatever they need to once they're done. So I don't blame any player for being on social media, but I hear you out if you think that Antonio Brown's complaining too much, or if any player complains too much about the attention they get when they look for attention. I understand where you're coming from, but understand also that is part of the business nowadays to market yourself, especially when you may not be on all the main commercials. If you're not like Aaron Rodgers that's on a State Farm commercial every week. Not that Antonio Brown doesn't get endorsements now and then, but let's talk about what Dale reported. Dale Lally, our beat writer on the Steelers here on DK Pittsburgh Sports, and if you read the article, I suggest go read. Brown clears the air regarding missing Steelers OTAs and Bell. Antonio Brown started that conversation talking about two things: one, him not being at OTAs, and two, his addressing of Le'Veon Bell. To recap it, in case you missed it, back at the start of Steelers OTAs, Le'Veon Bell wasn't there. It was a big story pushed by the national media, ESPN, NFL Network, et cetera, and the story that was being pushed was that, well, Bell doesn't care to be here, and he wants all this big money. This is a problem. And when Antonio Brown was asked about it, he said he would like it if Le'Veon Bell could be here, because it couldn't hurt for them to work out together and to help build that chemistry. He didn't say he absolutely needs to get here now. He's failing the team. He's letting him down. He just kind of just said, yeah, it would be nice if he was here. Well, him saying that then spiraled into another thing, because about a few days later, then Antonio Brown wasn't at OTAs, and he's rarely at OTAs because he works out on his own. That's how he always has been. That's how he's become as great as he has. Now, I'm not saying that just skipping OTAs makes you great, but Antonio Brown has his own workout plan, his own training regimen. He has his own thing that he does, just like Ben Roethlisberger does when he was missing OTAs, just like Troy Polamalu did when he was missing OTAs. Certain guys have certain plans, and when you're that superstar athlete and you're performing at the way that Antonio Brown is, going on his way into what could be a Hall of Fame career if he continues the path that he's on, I'm not gonna say no to that. I might ask you to show up for a few like he did, and to meet the younger guys and help get them in and set the tone. But I'm not gonna make that guy be where he's out of his element to work out and get better, because that's the way he's gotten better for my team. So that part of it is that people were criticizing Antonio Brown for not being at OTAs after he simply said it would be nice if Le'Veon Bell would be here. So that's why. So that's where this starts from, because. The first thing he says in this conversation, he says it's not even talking about OTAs. It's not even mandatory. It's voluntary. And you guys go making up stories about how I don't want to work with a rookie quarterback. Now, there was talk about across social media about does Antonio Brown he's skipping it because he doesn't want to develop a relationship with Mason Rudolph because Ben Roethlisberger's skipping it, and Antonio Brown's saying that's not it. He goes on to say, I'll play with any quarterback, no matter who's here. I play for the Steelers. It's not one guy. You guys write these stories. I have to wake up to the Google alert. I'm under pressure. I can't go work out for myself. Fans come meet me at the field. Yada yada. That's where that comes from. So that's where that's sprayed. That was the quote that we talked about earlier. But he's like, I don't have problems with anyone. You play this game so much. Everyone tells me not to pay attention to it. But there's a lot of people that put a lot of pressure on me. When I take time to reflect, I reflect on guys who have made it hard on me for no reason. I don't hate those guys. I love those guys. And as a player, it's good to get those things out of your mind. And I think what Antonio Brown is saying here is that he's like, look, there's all these stories. One, the notion that he was getting on Le'Veon Bell. He simply said, Le'Veon Bell, hey man, it'd be great if he was here, but we're working with what we're working with. And then afterwards, it was said, oh no, he's not there. What kind of message is that to Le'Veon Bell? And then the rumor starts about he doesn't want to work with Mason Rudolph. And I think that's where he's coming from. He's like, you know what? I'm tired of these stories breaking out. Never said that Le'Veon Bell is a bad person for not being here, because he knows he wasn't going to be there, and he's not setting a bad example by not being there, because that's what he normally does. And he's Antonio Brown. He doesn't, he's established that he can do this. If James Washington showed up and wasn't there, that might be a problem, because James Washington is a rookie. He needs to come in. He needs to work. But Antonio Brown didn't skip OTAs when he was a rookie because he needed to come in. He needed to work. He's also a low-round draft pick, unlike James Washington. But regardless, he knows what he has to do and how he has to do it. And when he hears these stories, I understand where he's coming from. Now, yeah, Antonio Brown did ramble on a bit because he's an athlete, and he's talking to the locker room, and I think he's trying to express as many of his thoughts out there as he can. But I don't think that this is about him saying don't follow me around, don't give me the attention. All he's saying is don't put me out of context. Now, for those who might say, oh well, that's just part of the world, that's part of the media, I get it. Okay, fine, that's how you stand. But I still think it's important to put a player in the correct context, and to make sure that everyone is when they're looking at this message, you're looking at this message as a whole, not as a cutout picture that completely changes up the message of what's being said in this conversation. And that's what Antonio Brown's talk in the locker room was. It was a conversation I guess it was more of a monologue a bit. Well, he did have, well, that's not true. He did take questions. But the thing is that I understand where he's coming from on that. And I mean, it's the same thing. If you remember way back back in 2007, rookie Anthony Smith, and I'm sure a lot of Steelers fans will groan when I mention this. He was put on display because he quote unquote guaranteed a victory over the undefeated New England Patriots because in the week before their game. And if you remember watching that live, what happened was, he was put on the media saying that rookie safety Anthony Smith guarantees victory over Tom Brady and the Patriots, and the Patriots slaughtered the Steelers. It was ugly. And at one point, Tom Brady threw a touchdown pass right past Anthony Smith, ran up to him and got in his face and yelled at the rookie. But if you actually watch the locker room interview, you see that all he said originally was, like people ask, like, so are you scared of these guys? It's like, no, I'm not scared of anybody. We just faced the Bengals with Carson Palmer and Chad Ochocinco and T.J. Houshmandzadeh, and they had Chris Henry at the time. And he's like, I think that their 3 is just as good as that 3. I think we can beat these guys. And the reporter says, do you guarantee that you beat these guys? And then he says, no, I don't guarantee. I'm just saying I think he's like, oh, so you don't think that you can beat these guys? So he tricks the rookie into saying, okay, yeah, I guarantee that we beat these guys. And then, of course, they don't beat them. And still, Anthony Smith shouldn't have fell for the bait. But but you take that one soundbite, or that not even a soundbite, just that tiny bit of text where it says, I guarantee we can beat them. And that's what people run with. And that's the same thing that I think is going to happen with Antonio Brown and will continue to happen in our sports media world until I think people say stop and think for themselves, all right, what was the context that this was set in? Let me get the whole conversation. Let me hear the whole story, see how everyone is reporting on this before I make a judgment call and say, this guy's crazy. So that's where I'm coming from on this is take a step back, look at all the information. And again, I'm not mad at you if you still think that Antonio Brown's, off the chain for saying these things. If that's your opinion, that's your opinion. But what I see a lot of going around right now is a lot of people just talking about the one clip of him saying, people are following me around and people being upset that he said that. But what he's really talking about here is being taken out of context, things being said about him that aren't true or that he has never said, and him being upset that people are putting words in his mouth. And he has to deal with that every day as he works in his career. But that's what got me started, and I hope it got y'all started too. Hit me at Carter Critiques if you disagree on Twitter. From DK Pittsburgh Sports, this has been Chris Carter, NFL analyst, signing out.